perhaps you have an issue, I hope you do, and hopefully if you don't, I'll help you think of one, that you want to address, some systemic, societal issue that is huge, that you see throughout your daily life or that you are interested in. So I have, as I said, a very unique experience, but I think I've accumulated a series of lessons along the way that I hope can be applicable to whatever you want to advocate for. So, what's the first thing you need to do? Step 1, do not ask for permission. There's a reason why there is a systemic societal issue. That is because the powers that be either do not know it exists or do not care to address it because they're complacent. So do not ask for permission from anyone. Do your research, figure out how you can be effective, and that's it. Can you imagine if I would have gone to my local commissioner or to the county and said, hi, my name's Andrew, I have a career in foreign policy, but, and no background in environmentalism at all, but I want to go into a protected natural area where people aren't supposed to be and start picking up trash. I would have either received a deafening silence or an emphatic no. But I got to work. Along that vein, what I want you to do right now is write down on that piece of paper your issue. It could be anything from racial justice to equal pay to healthcare, environmentalism, what have you. But what is an issue you either are or can be passionate about? Systemic issue in society. I'm going to give you a minute to write it down. Okay, so I hope everyone had the chance to write down their issue. We're going to get back to that. What's the next step? Step 2, get to work. Right now, you're not going to receive a Pentecostal revelation from on high telling you, now's the time for you to finally start tackling this problem. You want to be a doer, not a pointer. The difference between the two being that a pointer is someone who goes, there's a problem over there, someone should really do something about it, and nothing else. The doer is a person who goes over to the problem and starts working on it. You still need the pointers. They will disseminate your message, they'll champion your cause, but the doers are the people who actually get, as the name implies, or states, something done. You need to lead by example. If you want others to follow, you need to show them what they need to do. The only way to do it is to do it yourself. Change is cumulative. You are not going to fly in, you're not going to defeat the monster or the alien attacking Earth, and then beat it up, save the planet, and fly back out. If you want to make meaningful systemic change, what you need to do is work on something local, something you can change right now. I will never ever defeat the issue of marine trash in the world. It's too large. What I can do is that I can step into a 5 by 5 square foot area and fix the issue there. And then step to the next 5 by 5 square foot area and fix it there. Over time, real systemic change is incremental. So once you add up those small, marginal changes, that's when you start to see a real impact. So, you still have your pen, you still have your paper. What I want you to do is write down something you can do today with no one else helping you. Doesn't matter how marginal, how small it might seem compared to the problem, to start to address some aspect of the issue that you wrote down. I'll give you a minute. Okay, so you have your issue, you have a mode to address it even on a marginal level. So, you're working on your issue, you're advocating for it, what do you do next? In order to really make an impact, you need the help of others, and you need to get your message out. And the way you do that is through a series of tools. You have social media, traditional media, collaboration with other organizations and individuals, and unfortunately politics. Social media. This is me. On Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm not on Twitter because that place is awful. But when you begin, get on all the platforms. Okay, and you'll learn the tricks of the trade already. I'm sure you know many of them. what to tag, you know, how to post natively, how to get your message out. So, social media. First and foremost, if a tree falls in the wood and no one's around to hear it, it doesn't make a sound when it comes to society. No one will hear it. If I'm alone in the mangroves and I don't record anything, I wouldn't be in this classroom. You wouldn't have seen my video. You wouldn't be getting this lecture, whether you like it or not, today. So you need to record your work. I could be making still a local impact, but that's it. It remains local. So, social media operates as a multiplier effect. It's not just that random passing boater, you know, going past the mangroves that sees me and wonders what the hell is that guy doing, that actually, you know, I can actually reach if I yell at him, I guess. But you get to spread your message and your action to other people. It is very important that when you're operating on social media that you educate people. So I could very well place a GoPro on a tripod in the middle of the swamp and just record myself picking up trash, but without any context, it doesn't mean anything. You have to explain to people three things. One, why is the issue important? Two, why are you working on the issue? And three, what can they do themselves to work on it? It's very important that you exhibit your passion. You're out there for a reason, okay? You are doing this work for a reason. And if you want to inspire others, you need to communicate that to them. So if there were a bell-shaped curve of people on the environmental spectrum, I'd be on the extreme right end, okay? Because I go on the mangroves and I pick up trash myself. I don't want everyone to do that. I don't want everyone in this classroom or everyone in Miami to do the same, because you will literally crush the mangroves. Now, what I want to do is show people that, yes, here's this guy doing something pretty crazy, pretty out there to, you know, try to lessen the impact of marine trash. You, in your own life, can do something a little bit more sensible that is not that extreme. So, for example, just using less plastic. You could really make an impact. Like I said, social media will help you disseminate your message. It'll help you build the core group of supporters and champions that either go out in real life and assist you in the work, or at the very least will propagate your message, will share, will comment, will like, etc. Traditional media. This is me, traditional media. This is your parents' media. This is TV, radio, magazines, newspapers, and it grows from social. So if you stick to it, if you keep posting, if you grow a following, eventually the journalist will reach out to you and say, hey, I want to write an article on your work. That's not to say that you should just, you know, basically rest on your laurels and wait for someone to come up to you and approach you and say, hey, can I interview you? You should be reaching out as well. Find your local journalist. If you are in the environmental sphere, find an environmental journalist. Know who your audience is. Just like in social media. So if I write an op-ed, I'm not going to try to publish it in the LA Times or in the Washington Post or the New York Times, because those people have never seen a mangrove. They don't care. It doesn't affect them. I'm going to try to target the Miami Herald, the New Times, the New Tropic, things like that. Just like in social media, you need to educate the journalist, and you need to educate that journalist's audience. What are you doing? Why? What can others do? Remember your talking points. This is very important. So, I don't know how much media training you've had, but we're going to do a little bit of it today. So, talking point is very simple. It is a concept that you need to get across within an interview, that you need the audience of that journalist to hear or to read. It's a sentence long, it's short, it's easy to memorize, and it's central to your message. So, for example, a talking point that I might give a journalist might be, let's see, everyday people can lessen the impact that they have on the environment simply by taking a backpack to the grocery store, or by not using the plastic bags that you find in the grocery store to put your fruits and vegetables. So that's a quick talking point. So when you're being interviewed, you want to have a maximum of 4, because you want to be able to memorize it and recall it quickly. And they're going to hit on different vectors toward the same message. And should the conversation get off track, especially if you're on a panel, because that can certainly happen, you want to be able to put it back on the rails. So, to that end, I want you to write 2 talking points addressing your issue as if you were being interviewed. Before we start, do you have any questions on talking points? You good? Okay, you have 90 seconds. Finally, you are going to want to avoid crossfire type situations. What's this? This is when you come on a show or you're interviewed for a podcast or whatever, and you are pitted against someone with a diametrically opposed view that you have on the same issue. And it is a complete waste of time. You just pepper each other with talking points. Nothing gets accomplished. What you want to look for are situations where you're able to speak to a journalist in a meaningful manner about the issue, what you're doing, what others can do. So avoid that. Collaboration. This is an example of quite a few organizations and companies that I've been lucky enough to partner with. Now, I need to stress this fact because I've seen this so many times, and maybe some of you have seen it as well. You find individuals that come into some sort of advocacy position with the best of intentions, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But what happens? Over time, they get involved in petty politics, it becomes about ego, it becomes about them and not about the issue. I've seen this so many times and it's very, very frustrating. So remember, remain humble. Keep that in mind. Focus on the issue. It's not about you. Nobody owns an issue. To that end, there are other people working on whatever issue you choose. Doesn't matter how obscure it might be. So go to them. Connect with them. Learn from them. There's inevitably going to be lessons that they can teach you. Don't duplicate other people's efforts. So when I walked the Miami Marathon, I could have very easily used those $5,000. I could have done, people have been begging me to take their money for something they don't even know, like, what I'm going to do with it. Like, they just say, oh, you're doing something good, here's some money. But the issue is, there are other organizations who might use it more effectively. I don't have a team of lawyers ready to go to draft legislation or file motions or do anything like that. There are other organizations who do, Miami Waterkeeper. And that's why I gave them all the money from the Miami Marathon, which they're putting to good use, much better than I could do. I could run a nonprofit, I've done it before, I could set it up, but again, don't duplicate efforts. Find your own competitive advantage. I know what mine is. I can walk into the mangroves, I can pick up trash, I can lead groups out there, I can educate people like yourselves, I can go on media. That's what I'm good at. It's not necessarily other things. And you don't have to do it all. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And of course, get moral support. Because there will be times that you'll be frustrated. It's inevitable. There are other people working on this issue who understand where you're coming from. And they're the ones who can help you keep going when times get tough. And lastly, politics. This is where the sociopaths live. Unfortunately, it's also where meaningful change happens. If you want to start to tackle a systemic societal issue, you need to use the legislative, executive, judicial branches. More often than not, it's legislative. In my experience, most, by no means all, but certainly a sizable majority of politicians primarily care about acquiring and increasing their own power. You have to have a certain sense of ego if you think you are better than everyone else to lead a group of possibly millions of people, or hundreds of millions if you're running for president. However, they are obsessed with re-election, with keeping their jobs. So even US senators, some of the most powerful legislators in the world, will spend hours a day doing what's known as call time, which is they go into a nondescript office building, sit in a cubicle with a chair, a book, and a very large phone book, and they'll go through the list of people, calling each individual one, asking them personally for money. That's how they make most of their money to run a campaign. They're obsessed with it. But if they have even the slightest hint of self-preservation or political instincts, They will listen to their constituents. Again, if you live in their district, if you're a constituent of a politician. If you don't, if you're not, that's a whole other lecture I could give, or really like a series of classes I could give. But as a result, you can use this to your advantage. If you are a constituent or if you know someone who is, they will listen to calls, to emails, and to visits, in-person visits. Even if you don't meet with the legislator, him or herself, you talk to a staff, the staff will let them know what you talked about. So you want to put that issue in their ear. More importantly, you want to make it an electoral issue when they are running their campaign. You want to make it a plank within their greater platform. Preferably, you would want donors putting this in their ears. So if you can get a donor to put it within a list of other concerns that they have, they will pay attention. Now, say the politician that you were in favor of gets elected. Once elected, you need to be able to discern the difference between allies and champions. Allies are individuals who will vote for a piece of legislation, and that's about it. They won't stick their neck out, they won't invest political capital. Champions are people who will forward the legislation through a subcommittee, who will bring it up for debate, and who will co-sponsor it. They're the ones who ensure that it gets passed, that it gets done, they'll make the political deals necessary. You need both, but you need to really find your champions. That's what's most important. And you need to build coalitions. When I worked on the issue of Cuba, we had some really, really weird bedfellows. We had rice farmers, conservative rice farmers from Arkansas, on the same page as liberal academics from New York and DC think tanks. And they were both pushing for the same issue. And you need the diversity. You need to triangulate on a politician from as many angles as possible, with as many arguments as possible, and most importantly, using as many networks as possible. They're self-interested, so work on it. And lastly, prepare to be disappointed. It is inevitable in all things politics. Doesn't matter. Sometimes you'll be in the ascendancy and you think you're on top, and then next thing you know, you'll be in the wilderness. It will happen. That's how electoral cycles work. Don't give up. Some of the most successful advocates out there are people who simply stuck around when everyone else left. Because guess what? The next electoral cycle, things will be different. So, you have your issue, you have incremental changes that you can start implementing within your own life, and you even have a pair of talking points. That's literally all you need to get started. So, get to it. Are there any questions?